You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome into our special program tonight, Murder in the Watchtower. And we have a special guest coming on tonight as well that's going to talk about a very frightening event that took place, a horrifying event that took place in her life about 10 months ago. So she'll be coming on with us shortly, but I just wanted to come on here tonight and talk about this for a little bit. We've been doing this program for 16 years, and we have had people come through here and talk about murder in the Watchtower. And I can remember, I'd say a good 12 years ago, we started 16 years ago, but about 12 years ago, a man by the name of James Kostelnik, he came onto the program and he just shocked us all with what he had to say. And he actually had his wife and his two small children that were murdered by his by his the husband of the ex-wife. She murdered him, and he was a Jehovah's Witness. So, friends, it's not unusual to hear this, and we've heard it not only from him, but other people too that have called in, and we know about the murder up in Michigan with the girl that was the model and how she killed her family and then killed herself. So we do hear of horrifying things. The Birdwell case in Pennsylvania, where there were two young Jehovah's Witness men that killed their parents. So it's not totally unusual to hear this, but I wanted to just bring you all up to speed on what's going on in this case we're going to be discussing tonight. Tonight we're going to be discussing a very strange case, and we have a relative coming on here. She's actually the niece of the people here involved in this murder. I'm going to read you a little bit of it, and I'm going to play you a clip, and then we can bring her on, Vanessa, and she can talk about it. But this goes back. To January, December 2021, December, Millbank, South Dakota. Jehovah's Witness member Brent Hanson has been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of his brother Clyde Hanson and sister-in-law Jessica Hanson, who was 8 months pregnant. The victims were also Jehovah's Witnesses. So the story is reporting Brent Hanson as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. He killed his brother Clyde. He killed Clyde's wife, Jessica, who was pregnant 8 months at the time. So this is a very disturbing case. And anyways, I'm going to play you a clip. I do have a clip here I would like to play you that I do have in front of me. Well, let me play this clip. Now, let me just make sure you're able to see it. Let me make sure we can get you on our StreamYard so you'll be able to see it. Just give me a second to share this with you. But I read that from the paper, but there's a video clip from a news station in North Dakota that actually carried this story. And I want you to hear it. It's a triple murder. Jehovah's Witnesses written all over the paper. Jehovah's Witnesses mentioned here as well. So let's listen to this story, and then we can talk about it on the other side. So let's share it right now.
Good evening. A Millbank man is behind bars tonight accused of killing his brother and his brother's pregnant wife earlier this week.
57-year-old Brent Hanson faces charges of first-degree murder, along with 3 alternative counts of second-degree murder. KELOLAND's Lauren Solik just returned from Millbank with the very latest details on the investigation.
Here at the Grant County Courthouse, a $5 million bond, cash only, has been set for 57-year-old Brent Hanson. He is charged in the deaths of both Clyde and Jessica Hanson, as well as the death of Jessica Hanson's unborn child. According to a press release from the South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation, police were called to a welfare check at a Millbank home Wednesday morning. A separate source told law enforcement there may be 2 people who had died at the home. Investigators say the injuries of the 2 victims pointed to a homicide. That's when DCI was called in to assist. Their investigation led them to Brent Hanson of Millbank, who is the brother of Clyde Hanson and brother-in-law to Jessica Hanson. In Millbank, Lauren Solik, KELOLAND News.
All right, so there you have it. There you have it. Now, I'm going to bring Vanessa on, and we're going to talk to her about this. It's a terrible thing that this happened, and obviously, just imagine that even happening to your family members. It's a terrible thing. So let's bring Vanessa on right now. Hello,
Hey.
Vanessa. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
So anyways, what we're going to do, we're going to go slow with this now. I know it's still disturbing, and I thank you for wanting to come on and talk about it, Vanessa. But
Yeah.
and I know that it's kind of, we won't go into all the detail because there's still some court cases here that have to be settled. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your uncles?
Well, they were more like my big brothers than anything else because they were my dad's 2 youngest brothers. There's 7 boys and 1 girl. And so I was the firstborn grandchild. And so they were closer in age to me than they were to my father. So they were kind of raised like they were my babysitters, and they were really my only playmates. Like, you know, you can't have friends outside of the Jehovah's Witness organization. And so they were the only ones I had to play with, and it was awful. Like, Brent's 9 years older than me, and Clyde, one of his victims, is 10 years older than me.
All right,
And
so let me just stop you right there for a second. So Clyde and Brent, so this would be your father's brothers.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's 7 boys total. My dad is second born. And
All right.
yeah.
I see the newspaper in North Dakota is referring to Brent, the murderer. They're referring to him as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Was he a Jehovah's Witness when that happened?
From what I was told, but I was told this by a Jehovah's Witness family member, so I can't believe them, but I guess he had left like within the last few years or so. But Clyde and Jessica, they were Jehovah's Witnesses, like current ones. But with Brent, you know, he's a former Bethelite, and he was at the farm in New York, and that was in the early 80s. And he had already been abusing me. And that was my dad's way of getting him out of town and away from me, was to send him to Bethel. My dad's like, well, you know, there's no kids at Bethel, so he should be safe there, you know.
So
And
did your father, Vanessa, did your father know that his brother was molesting you?
oh yeah. Yeah, there were such intense judicial hearings about it that they sent a Watchtower representative for one of them, and they also brought a Watchtower lawyer along with them because, you know, they always travel in pairs. And I had never like heard that anybody else had gone through that, but then when Lloyd Evans, he had posted a video that with his judicial, and he mentioned he had a Watchtower representative for his too. So that's like a thing. So Watchtower knew, and they still then after that accepted him to Bethel. And then he offended at least 3 of his roommates. They kept giving him a new roommate over and over again instead of, you know, doing anything about it. And then there were so many complaints about him, even like demented bathroom behavior. Like you hear stories about that at Bethel. And so then they sent him home, and I remember just being devastated that he was being, sent back home and nothing was going to be done. And he was confronted again then, because basically his reputation had been ruined, and here he's coming back home. Bethel didn't work out, and he was just ballistic. And then after he came home, he offended on another family member. He had moved in with her, and, well, it was his sister, and he offended on her, she was also a Jehovah's Witness. And then the attempted homicide of my parents happened in 1986, which was the same. He beat Clyde to death in the head with a baseball bat and then chopped, pregnant Jessica up with a machete. And that was the same exact thing that he tried to do with both of my parents. And instead of calling the police, because Brent would say, well, if I go down for this, you're going to go down for it too. He would say that to my dad. And
All right, let's just stop there. I just don't want to get too ahead of the story here now, because I know it's bringing back a lot of bad memories, but you are a trooper and people are thanking you for telling your story. So let's just go back to, he got out of Bethel. Brent was in Bethel. Now, they let him go, did they?
Yeah, they sent him back home, and they send a letter home with them to alert the congregation that, hey, this is what's happened and this is why he's coming back home. And my dad, of course, was presiding overseer. So
that's a fact that he was sent home because of his sexual perversion.
Yeah, it said due to deviant sexual behavior, they were sending him home. And so then he was put on the list. It also, because the list was new. That was kind of a new thing back then. They started the list in 1980. And then they went retroactive back 30 years and looked in everybody's file. And, that's why the list is from names of people from 1950, is because they just went back.
All right. So now he comes out of Bethel. You're afraid he has molested you when you were younger. And now he comes back to where you live. At the time, where were you?
Millbank, South Dakota, where all this happened.
You were all there. Now you were living there as well. Now he comes back to South Dakota and he makes an attempt to try to kill your mother and father.
Yeah. They had both. We'll see. This is the thing. Both, even though Clyde is a homicide victim of Brent now, Clyde and him, we used to describe it as they were abnormally close, and they both had a very bizarre relationship with my grandma, their mother. And they would house sit for us. They house sat for the assembly and made a copy of the key to the house. And Clyde helped Brent back in 86 to try and to kill both of my parents. Clyde was in on it, and he was Brent's alibi. It's oh no, that wasn't Brent. Brent was home all night and blah, blah, blah. So he helped with getting Brent off, that, he couldn't be charged with attempted homicide because of that.
All right, we'll stop right there. What was the motive for your two uncles to kill their brother and your mother?
The molestation coming out and them facing jail time, both of them. And they just wanted to shut my parents up. And the plan is that they were going to kidnap me. The family owns Hanson Salvage Yard in Millbank, South Dakota. If you want to Google it, you'll see pictures of it. And so they were all raised in this junkyard, my father and all of his siblings, and being Jehovah's Witnesses too at the same time. A lot of creepy junkyard behavior would happen. So if you can picture that kind of family, being a junkyard family, and hoarders, they're extremely dirty, especially grandma. And so, the attempted homicide, and then my parents' response to that, because justice wasn't being served, we instead sold all our belongings and then moved to Arizona. And then years went by.
this must have been a very, I mean, you must have been on edge all the time. All the
Oh
time.
yeah. We tried
So,
to hide our address, but people would find it out, and we'd move and move and move houses all the time. Like it was a constant thing.
all right. So he came home from Bethel. What year would you say that would have been?
It was like 84
All right.
when
So
yeah.
he didn't cause much of an issue for all of these years until say 10 months ago.
Oh no. Well, I thought he wasn't doing anything, but then after this all came out, people've been coming forward. There were posts on Facebook where like neighborhood mothers are like, beware of Brent Hanson, he's stalking my 10-year-old daughter. Like both him and Clyde didn't have a preference towards if it was a boy or a girl. It didn't matter. But what really then took the focus off of them is that in like 2010 or something like that, the other brother, my other Uncle Morris Hanson, he got caught raping 3 neighborhood boys under the age of 12. And so I wanted to get named as one of, the victims with that, but the statute of limitations was up. And he pled guilty anyway, so there never was like a trial. He got life in prison. And yeah.
So your whole family really has had some issues. Was there mental illness here, say, involved, or was
Oh
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's pleading not guilty due to insanity. So, and the thing is though, it's like, yeah, it was an insane situation. And if he's found not guilty due to insanity, he'll be sent to, a mental hospital. But he's got a really good case because of the Jehovah's Witness behavior. He could, very likely, because I told everything to the prosecutor first, and he was like real freaked out and didn't want to talk about it. And it's like, what? So then I called the defense attorney because I wanted to know what Brent was saying. Like I was trying to get all the information. And I told him too. And then he was extremely interested. He's like, what's going on with these Jehovah's Witnesses? And Jessica, just prior to the murder, she had checked herself into a mental hospital. That's where she was coming home from. And Clyde had been killed the day before, just before she was released from the mental hospital. And then she got released, came home, and he attacked her with the machete. So.
Well, that is a horrifying story, Vanessa. That's a horrifying story. Not many. I know that you used to host a program here on the 6 screens a number of years ago, and you did a great job. You had a good following, and you were not the average Jehovah's Witness when you were one. I mean, you experienced things the average Jehovah's Witness never saw. You saw things growing up. Not only were you molested when you were younger, but you've seen some of the devious acts of people, and including even witnessing this murder, or at least finding out about a murder in your family. Not all people go through that, and our heart goes out to you for that. You're a strong woman, Vanessa. Seriously, and we believe you. I mean, there are people that Vanessa might not be telling the truth here. There are people who think that, believe it or not. But I want you to know that myself and many of our listeners, we are on your side, and we believe everything you are saying. But let's just kind of go back to the problem at hand. You were molested when you were younger by your uncle Brent. He went to
Clyde, both of them.
both of them. Then he went to Bethel. That'll be Brent, the one that murdered Clyde. Now you have witnessed up front and close how evil this organization is. Nobody stepped in to help you when you were having these problems as a young girl?
No. And I try, I even have these individuals on tape, me calling them again, trying to get help for Jessica. Because Clyde and Jessica haven't been married that long. They were married just over 5 years when this happened. They got married September 14th, 2016.
And tell us how they met.
Oh my goodness. Clyde was at Bethel as a temporary Bethelite in 2015. And he got in trouble doing something, not exactly sure what, but he got in trouble with some of like his Bethelite friends and stuff. And he then got sent home, and then he got removed as an elder locally. And Bethel then said to him, I don't know, is my video too dark, by the way? Should I turn on a light, or can you see me?
Yeah,
okay?
no, you can turn on a light because it is a little dark. People like to see you. One
Yeah.
person's right.
The sun just went down.
Yeah, one person
then,
yeah. There
okay.
you are. All right, there you go. So, one person just wrote in. They said, "I thought that Vanessa was a blonde, but it looks like you're a redhead." Right?
Yeah, I've been a redhead.
Yeah.
But
all right.
yeah. So Clyde got in trouble at Bethel in 2015, doing something weird, and the Bethel brothers, there were a relative. He told his sister, and his sister then, my aunt, told me. And she says, the Bethel elders then instructed Clyde, because of what he did that was weird at Bethel. They said, you need to fix your situation and make your situation look right by finding yourself a wife. And I knew personally exactly what they meant by that, because he's a pedophile and a weirdo. And so it's like, oh, great. Now he's going to go and find himself a wife. And at that point, he would have been 53 years old. And I had never seen either one of them have a girlfriend, And so because of the brothers at Bethel instructing him to find himself a wife, he went on to JW Match, the online dating site, and found Jessica, who's 30 years younger than him. And so in 2016, on September 14th, they got married, and it was all secret. No one knew until their wedding day. And only Brent was there for the wedding. I guess he was the one, there's like one picture taken. They went the same courthouse that Brent's facing trial is where they got married, at the courthouse. And he kept it secret on purpose because it's like he knew at the very least I would say something. And so when I found out, I called a local elder named Rob Wilcock. They go to the Ortonville, Minnesota congregation, the Hilltop congregation, because there's no Kingdom Hall in Millbank because it's so small. And I called him. I recorded it. That was the first thing I ever recorded. And he was dismissive. He didn't care. And I knew he knew, because he's married to a woman that I've known my whole life. And she was the one that I went to for help about my molestation. And so I called him on purpose, and he just didn't care. So then I called the main branch of, Bethel, and I recorded that too. And they were dismissive, but I gave them Rob Wilcox's phone number. And so then Bethel called Rob Wilcox because they knew. I'm like, hey, Clyde's on the list. Clyde just got in trouble. And what in the world? What do you mean you're telling him to go get a wife? And, that's a disaster, which is obvious. It turned out to be even worse than what I was, imagining. And so they called Rob Wilcox, and Rob then texts me and he goes, okay, I'll keep an eye on things. And it's like, so then I texted Jessica's family. I texted her sister. I called her mom, they're all New York Jehovah's Witnesses, by the way. The Hernandez family. That's Jessica's maiden name. And her mom, I talked to her over the phone, and it was surprising that she said, she cussed me out. She like swore. And she's like, you need to mind your own goddamn business. And my daughter's an adult. And if that's what she wants to do, you leave her alone. And it's like, so then I got in contact with Jessica. And I have like a 5-week long conversation with her. And she confronted Clyde about everything that I was telling her. I said, you're in danger. Like, seriously. And if you start to have kids, 100% chance those kids are going to get molested, which of course the first one did get molested. That's why the murder happened, is because then my little cousin Ty, who survived all of this, he got molested. That's why Brent flipped out. I guess he got caught. I don't know if it was caught red-handed or whatever.
All right, well, let's just stop right there. Now, you're doing good. You're doing very, very good. I know it's very, very difficult, Vanessa, to even tell the story. But just for the sake of our audience, I just want to make sure they understand exactly what's going on here, because you and I talked about it, and I worked through it and try to smooth some of these things out. So Jessica is the woman, Jehovah's Witness woman, that was murdered by her brother-in-law, Brent. Now now Jessica was married to Clyde. That would have been Brent's brother. So Jessica and Brent were brother-in-laws. Now, you knew that Clyde also had problems with sexual perversion. So you got a hold of Jessica, and you talked to her about her husband, Clyde. Did she originally, at first, did she believe it, or did she kind of believe it?
At first she was like dismissive and didn't want to, didn't really want to talk about it. But she had told me, well, Clyde did tell me before we got married that he had been abused, and that, he was dealing with stuff, and that, he had issues, which he didn't get into. But I call it the abuse excuse, because when the brothers deal with abusers, with these damaged men, what they'll tell them is, like, if you have a wife, or if you're going to get married, tell that woman that you've got issues. Like, tell them that you were abused and that you're going through a bunch of things. And so, hopefully that their wife will understand that if anything happens, to like basically prepare the woman, which is what Clyde had done. And she's like, yeah, Clyde told me he had issues, but I didn't know it was like that. Like, she thought that he was just abused, but that she didn't know that he was also an abuser. And so she confronted Clyde, and she messaged this all to me, and I've got the, screenshots. She then says, I confronted Clyde about this. He bursted into tears and admitted to certain things, and that, he's got severe mental issues, and she was disgusted with the elders for not telling her. And I've got the text message in front of me. But she says, I'm going to read you the text message. She says, it's so disgusting that the elders told you to hush about this. I know you speak the truth because I have studied similar cases about pedophilia and how the elders have been reported for hiding criminals and telling innocent people not to report abuse. This disgusts me. I'm so sorry you and blank, another family member I told her about, had to go through this. Thank you for speaking up when no one has had the courage. But then she tells me that I don't feel safe or comfortable here anymore, and I'm going to move out next month, which she then didn't, because she said this October 31st, 2016, and they had only been married about a month and a half at that point. And so instead, she blocked me, and Clyde blocked me. And it's like, okay, I obviously need to do something. And I'd called the police, and they said, oh, the statute of limitations is up already, and you can't do anything unless something else happens, like until they reoffend again. And it's like, well, that's bullshit, but oh well. And so I kept an eye on things and then started my YouTube channel, and I would document, and it's like,
Well, you did a great job with that, but let me just break in here for a second now. I want to read you a comment here on YouTube, and I want you to address the comment.
okay.
The comment says, "This is terrible, but it sounds like the family had many issues." Let me just scroll up because it's moving by pretty fast. So it sounds like the family had many issues. These murders were associated with mental issues in not being a Jehovah's Witness. Many family murders can be found among all religions, just not Jehovah's Witnesses. What would you say to that comment, Vanessa?
Well, the murders, that situation specifically was caused because of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, people were put in danger, not only for elders covering it up and not, it's like, oh, here are these two brothers associated with Bethel, and they've offended at Bethel and they're on this list and we're supposed to be keeping an eye on them, and then instructing these monsters to go find themselves a good Jehovah's Witness wife to cover up for their disgusting behavior. And neither one of them had been married, like, with Clyde up until he was 54 years old. And there was a reason for that, and for them not to warn, like, for them to be put on a list in the first place is so that if they're in a situation where they could abuse and hurt somebody else, they're supposed to warn that person. And they didn't.
All right. No, that's a good
Yeah.
answer. And I just want to comment on that as well, if you don't mind. Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm going to put as a good portion of the blame here for your aunt and your uncle and her baby that wasn't born yet dying. I'm going to put the witnesses on the hook here, and I'm going to tell you why. They're supposed to be the only pure religion on the planet. If they were really concerned, and when your uncle Clyde, when he was at Bethel, and they let him go, and they said, you better find yourself a woman, that indicates to me that he was having trouble with some type of perversion, right? That
Yep.
shows that he was having trouble. So they knew darn well. And when he came back from Bethel, as well as your Uncle Brent, nothing was ever really brought up in the congregation. You knew of the atrocities they were committing. You knew you were molested as a young girl by both of them, but the congregation had no clue to how devious these two guys were. I blame the witnesses.
Yeah, 100%. Because they should have been put in jail, just like my Uncle Morris, because he was raised a Jehovah's Witness. I don't think he was ever baptized, but it would have, since he wasn't a current Jehovah's Witness, or but he was raised a witness. And it's like, even with that, it had to be for him to molest 3 neighborhood boys for anything to ever get done. And because they weren't his only victims. But so then Jessica, knowing Clyde already confessed, he confessed to her a month and a half after they got married, and then she gets pregnant with her first child, little Ty. And I told her about Brent. She was living in the same house with both of them. Brent was living on the main level and they were living up above. And she let Brent babysit him. And so that's how he had access to him. And why he didn't murder Ty is because he wanted Ty all to himself. And he then, murdered them. And he kept Ty in the same house with the dead bodies for 4 days. Clyde's body was hidden behind some drywall, and and the baby were covered in a tarp. But to the extent of how much the Jehovah's Witnesses know and how they're willing to cover it up is that Clyde and Jessica and the baby were not even buried together. her family, being New York Jehovah's Witnesses, abandoned Clyde's body at the morgue. And my side of the family, the Hansons, then cremated Clyde. And they took Jessica and the baby and had them buried in New York. And when the witnesses started to hear, well, why in the world weren't they a happily married couple? And, you know, we don't understand. Why are you burying them separately? They freaked out, and they then covered it up. And they're like, we need to mention Clyde's name during this funeral, even though there's only one casket, because Jessica and the baby were buried together in the same casket. They're like, we're just going to pretend like this isn't happening, and we're just going to cover it up. And we're going to mention Clyde's name like it's no big deal. And there's no secret or scandal. But they weren't buried together, and witnesses are gossiping about it, and they don't understand. It's like, because Clyde was a pedophile. And that's, you know, but they knowingly honored a pedophile for that funeral. And I've got them on tape talking to me over the phone, and also text message, where they're like, yeah, Clyde was a predator too. That's why we're not going to bury them together, and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to make a stand. And then I've got them on tape saying, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, they're gossiping about us, and they're putting their 2 cents in it with everything. And so we're going to mention Clyde and honor him too, just because they didn't want to tell the truth.
All right, well, let's just stop there for a second. I want to thank you and the people too coming on, listening in on all of our platforms tonight. We're on a number of different platforms, and you're really getting good comments, Vanessa, really good, and they really know that you really have been put in a position here that's awkward, but everyone appreciates you telling the story. But let me just get this clear. The Jehovah's Witnesses, many of them knew that Clyde, would you say that many of them knew that he was indeed a pedophile?
Oh, yeah. There was, like, everyone in the family, for sure. Because then I also have myself, you know, talking to all the family members. Like, hey, I'm not there. I'm 1,600 miles away. Keep an eye on him. And, like, especially when she started to have kids. And I went back there like exactly a year before the homicide of Clyde happened, on December 12th of 2020, for my grandma's funeral. And knowing the bizarre, creepy relationship Clyde and Brent had with grandma, and her being such a controlling Jehovah's Witness, when she died, I could tell like Brent was about to snap. Like he was. And if I hadn't have been at that funeral, I have a feeling that he was planning on maybe going ballistic on the whole family. Like, that was how intense it was. And
yeah, this is really getting me thinking here, Vanessa. This really is getting me thinking. So the Jehovah's Witnesses knew that Clyde was indeed a pedophile.
oh yeah,
Now,
many judicial hearings, he got removed as an elder,
yeah,
sent home from Bethel.
but yet they were still cozying up.
Mm-hmm.
This always fascinates me in the world of the witnesses, because I've heard this numerous times before. When pedophiles, child molesters go to court, the witnesses show up in favor of the child molester. Well,
Oh yeah,
why do you think that happens, Vanessa?
because they don't want it to get out. They don't want people to find out. And Jessica had tried to leave him. Like, you know, I've got text messages where she's like, I don't feel safe or comfortable. But she went to the elder, Rob Wilcock, that I had called on their wedding day to beg him to warn her. That elder then instead convinced her to stay. And I've got text messages about that where she's like, no, I made a vow to Jehovah that I married this man. And even though he's got severe mental issues and blah, 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 I need to stay by him because of this vow she made to Jehovah. And the elders were, instead of helping her leave, were forcing her, because otherwise she would have gotten in trouble in the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, you know, you don't have grounds for divorce, sister. You need to stay with this guy. And her plan was, according to her sister, is that after the second baby was born, she was going to leave him. And so knowing that she was just a few short weeks away from getting out of there, but
Well, one other thing, let's just, I hear you mentioned a few times in our little interview here tonight that Clyde and Brent, the brothers, your uncles, they had an estranged relationship with your grandmother. Can you
yeah.
kind of let us know what you mean by that?
Well, there was the same thing also happened to my father. He would talk about it. She was a molester herself. Like, she was dirty and gross and a hoarder, and she was the one that made them the way that they were. And her and Clyde especially were inseparable. Like, he was one of those 50-year-old virgins that takes care of his mother for the rest of his life, like very Norman Bates. Like that I would like jokingly kind of be like, yeah, my uncle Norman Bates. And so when she passed away in 2020, knowing what they had said for years prior, it's like something bad is really going to happen. Like Jessica, the way people would word it, like in the family, was like Jessica was a replacement grandma, is how we would describe it. Like Clyde needed someone to replace his mother because she was 94. She was getting old, and it was just because of his crazy ways. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting trial because Brent's facing the death penalty, and a lot of things are going to come out, and it's like, it's been really hard to even describe it to people. It's like, here you got this junkyard Jehovah's Witness family that it's like, it's not normal. It's not normal at all. Just
No, it isn't. It isn't, Vanessa, normal. And well, what I wanted to even bring into the equation here at this time, I'm going to ask you the question because there's people that are listening into the network here tonight, and the question that could be asked at this time would be concerning your uncles, concerning your grandmother. I mean, your family obviously had some issues with all of this. You seem to be one of the only straight cookies in the whole family. I give you,
yeah.
I certainly give you credit for that. But now, do you think any of this would have happened if your family wasn't associated with the Jehovah's Witnesses?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, they would have been still a junkyard family, but I don't even know. The Jehovah's Witnesses had a lot to do with it because, well, there are those extreme Jehovah's Witnesses that take the doctrines and they take it to that next level of like crazy, like my grandma's. She was the kind that for Armageddon, what she was looking forward to is looting the dead bodies. Oh, this is terrible. But she was the kind of Jehovah's Witness sister that had these crazy beliefs about paradise, like, oh, all the bodies are going to have their eyes pecked out by crows, and we're going to need to take all of their things off the bodies, and then we're going to dispose of them and, create paradise of this bizarre, extreme way. And, how things are going to be more like Adam and Eve, she'd say. And, because then only Jehovah's Witnesses are going to survive Armageddon, and it's going to be like Bible times again. And she's like, we're the only major Jehovah's Witnesses in this small area, so we might have to repopulate the earth amongst ourselves. Like, that was the crazy. And she's the one that would play the piano at the Kingdom Hall. Remember before music?
Yeah.
Recorded music? She'd be pounding away on the piano, being all gross and weird. And but yeah, her thoughts was, because she had this large family, she would talk to me and my aunt. She's the only other girl. and she's only 6 years older than me. So she would, talk to us and say, you might be the only two girls of childbearing age when Armageddon comes. You need to prepare yourself to repopulate the earth, and you might have to do it with someone you're related to. Like, and other Jehovah's Witnesses were the same exact way. Like, and when you have that kind of crazy doctrine, those crazy thoughts in your head, and you're obsessed about people dying and, repopulating the earth and building the earth up into something, if you're already crazy, it makes it even worse,
I agree 100% with that. I agree 100%. Now let's go right back now. Well, let's go back to the day this all happened, the most atrocious, horrifying thing that you could ever imagine happened. And now that's going back in December of 2021, right?
Yeah. Well, Clyde was killed on the 12th and Jessica was killed on the 13th. Jessica and the baby.
Okay. So why was there some time in between?
Because she was checked herself into a mental hospital. So
she wasn't out of the hospital.
Yeah, she was in the hospital because she was being driven crazy. Like, she was losing her mind. She was wanting to leave Clyde, and the elders weren't letting her. The elders are telling her she's got to stay because she doesn't have grounds for divorce. And she didn't know what to do. And it's like, yeah, she would have been, if she was not a Jehovah's Witness, for one, she wouldn't have married him. But two, she would have left him a long time ago if it wouldn't have been for the Jehovah's Witness view on marriage, too. Like, just that in itself.
Well, there you go. That solidifies the point that I'm trying to make. If there's any thread that I'm trying to weave through this story, is I want to hold the Jehovah's Witnesses accountable to some degree for what happened here. Really, this is the whole idea of our network here, is exposing the witnesses for how evil and how corrupt they are. So the thread that I'm trying to weave through this story, and not trying to put words in your mouth, Vanessa, but what I'm seeing here is this may not have ever happened if they weren't involved in an organization that covers this up. If this was a real family in the real world, these people would have got help, but the Watchtower never gave them help. They just kind of shooed them along. Get out of here,
Yeah.
All right.
Watchtower, though, the scary part is that it's people like Clyde and Brent that get Watchtower's attention, that get promoted to being elders and Bethelites and circuit overseers and stuff. Like, why is Watchtower so interested in the worst of the worst at the Kingdom Hall? Those are the ones that are giving instruction. Can you imagine? My Uncle Clyde was an elder as recently as 2015 and at Bethel. And for him, as a confessed pedophile, giving someone else or interrogating some sister according to fornication or something, he would be the one that would be in that judicial talking to sisters and stuff, or kids, and entrusted in the congregation. And it's it's sad.
It is very sad. Well, let's just if you want to take a break, you want to get up and take a little walk around, that's okay. If you want to take a little break, or I know you're getting through this, and I appreciate you doing that. It's hard. I know I'd have a hard time, but thank you for wanting to share this all with us, Vanessa. But anyway, but anyways, we have Vanessa on here just to recap somewhat. If you're just listening in on YouTube now, Vanessa is a former Jehovah's Witness. Her two uncles, former Jehovah's Witnesses. She's talking about a murder in the Watchtower. She's talking about one of her uncles murdering her other uncle and the uncle's wife. And she was pregnant at the time. A very difficult story to tell, but Vanessa was willing to come on here tonight and tell it. Let's just go back now to the day that this all happened. Where can I ask where you're living now?
Me?
Yes.
In Arizona.
So you're in Arizona. So most of your family is still up there in North Dakota.
The majority, well, I'd say like maybe 3/4 of them are, but yeah.
Now, did you have you knew there were problems in your family? You've alerted people to it. You alerted the Watchtower to it. They did nothing. Your father, your mother, they were turning a deaf ear to all of this. Now, the thought that I would have is on the day this happened, did you think something like this would ever happen, Vanessa?
Yeah, I was anticipating it. Like, it's like just waiting to get the news of it. Like, it wasn't surprising at all. Like, no one was surprised at all. And it's just like, oh, okay, he did it. Because
So
it's not like he didn't threaten it all the time and try it on other people.
So we got to go back to December of 2021. Now, kind of walk us through exactly what you know happened.
Well, like, in July of 2021, there was a domestic dispute between Jessica and Brent. Jessica had asked Brent to watch her dog, and instead of watching the dog, he took it out and he shot it. And I didn't know about that at the time, but just prior to him trying to murder my parents, he had shot my dog right in front of me. I had a Doberman Pinscher named Domino. And he shot Domino for whatever reason. Like, well, his reasoning was he wanted to prepare me to get ready to lose something I loved, like for something that I loved to die. And so he shot him right in front of me. And that was a shock. And he's like, well, prepare yourself because, that's going to, seeing Domino die is nothing compared to you're going to see your parents die right in front of you. And which is exactly what he did to Ty. Like he, beat Clyde to death in front of Ty, and he chopped Jessica and the baby with the machete right in front of Ty. So I forget even what the question was. Oh, leading up to it. So he shot Jessica's dog, and she came home and she flips out, and they he was beating her in the head with like fists and stuff. And so she called the police. And then I'm not sure, I don't think he was even put in jail. They were living right on Main Street, and he's friends with the police chief. So it's like, why in the world? But then at some point, I'm not sure if this was before the dog got shot or after, but then Brent got accused of molesting Ty. And I guess they had reported it to the elders and then confronted him. And then she checked herself into the mental hospital. And then, so Clyde was home alone with Ty. And it wouldn't surprise me that Clyde had molested Ty, or that both him and Brent did, And so whatever happened, I mean, I guess I'll find out at trial, when he, explains, what was going on that day. But he went upstairs with the baseball bat with Clyde home alone with Ty, and then he just goes ballistic and beats him to death. I'm not sure where in the house. I'm like assuming in the living room or something. I don't know. And then he's got Ty. Clyde's laying there dead. And then Jessica came home the next day on December 13th. And he must have attacked her the minute she walked in the door because there was blood spatter on the outside of the front door. So the door must have been open, like, you know, as she's walking in the house. And then at some point he covers Clyde with drywall and covers her and the baby with a tarp. And he's got Ty. And then on December 14th, the police chief, Boyd Van Voren, messages Brent on Facebook. And he goes, "Hey, I've got a Christmas card for you. Do you want me to bring it over to the house? Or you want to come and get it at the police department?" And of course, you know, he can't have him come to the house. He's got bodies there. So he's like, "Well, I'll come and pick it up." And, you know, to some Jehovah's Witness sticklers, they're like, "Oh my goodness, you know, there's a Christmas card involved." That, you know, but we would get Christmas cards from people all the time. Like when you have a janitorial business, whatever, people send you Christmas cards. And so then on the, which this concerns me and really upsets me though, is there was a lot of creepy things on Brent's Facebook that I had reported to the police. Like I made multiple police reports. And he had this a picture of a little boy on his Facebook, and it was just creepy as all get out. And then the post was taken down. So for the police chief to be his friend on Facebook after all these, you know, creepy posts. And so he goes to the sheriff's department on the morning of the 15th to go get the Christmas card. And he leaves Ty at home with the bodies all by himself. This little 2.5-year-old, you know. And there he's standing there talking to the police chief. And the police chief asks him, "So are you having any more problems with Clyde and Jessica?" And it's like, well, wasn't he supposed to be arrested for domestic violence? Why are you just chit-chatting like it's them and not Brent? And he says to the police chief, "They don't live there anymore. They moved out." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And they continue to talk for like 40 minutes. And then all of a sudden over the police radio, there's a welfare check. Someone had tried to deliver a food basket to Clyde and Jessica, and they saw blood all over the front door, and there was no answer. So they're like, "Hey, you know, you need to come over here and check it out." So the police chief hears that, and he turns to Brent, and he's like, "So where did Clyde and Jessica move to? Is there blood all over the front door?" And Brent, this is stereotypical Brent. He just matter of fact, he's like, "I snapped." He's like, "What?" And he goes, "I snapped. I beat Clyde to death, you know, and chopped Jessica and the baby up." And so I guess they immediately, you know, they arrest him. And then they went to go, it was right on Main Street. They own one of the buildings at the end of Main Street. And they go and they could hear Ty like screaming and crying for help. And he hadn't been fed like in days. Yeah, it was awful.
That's a horrible story. Well, Vanessa, I give you a lot of credit for wanting to tell that story because, I mean, this will go down in the annals of Watchtower history, really. And the Watchtower knows darn well that they are the culprits. They are the culprits in causing a lot of these problems by covering so much up. Well, Vanessa, would you mind if we opened the lines up? Well, we'll be cautious. I know that there's always people coming on that, you know, they might not know the whole story, but we're going to make sure that we don't get, you know, negative callers coming in. But do you mind if we open up the phone lines and bring some people in and say hello to you?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, well, we got you on that's the story. So, I mean, and you stand by that story.
Yeah. Well, there's evidence towards it all. Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing, I mean, I played the news clip. I read the newspaper article. You came on. You were willing to do that. And then the thing that I just want to remind people too, there's a lot that Vanessa could not say tonight. There's some things she could not say that it would really be fascinating, but we got to wait for the trial. For her to spill the beans now or to say things, it could kind of disrupt the trial that's coming up. So after that trial, I'm sure you will come on, Vanessa, and talk more about what took place. But there's some things that will really shock you, but we really can't talk about it here tonight.
No. But I
Um,
want to give the Jehovah's Witnesses a warning, and to give ex-Jehovah's Witnesses some hope that the FBI know. Like, I've talked to the FBI multiple times, and, this isn't the end of it. Like, this is just seriously the beginning, and it's going to be just a, snowball effect of when it all, comes out. So we've got hope.
we always have hope, Vanessa, and I appreciate your good attitude in all of this. Not many people could come on and tell that story, but thank you for doing it. But let's see if we can't get some people to come in and say hello to you. Hey, you're on with Vanessa. Say hello to Vanessa. You're on 6 screens. Go ahead, open up.
Yeah. Hello, Vanessa.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. I listened to your story with interest. My heart goes out to you. I'm so sorry to hear that. And I mean, it's just sickening. It's unbelievable. But this country right here is getting more and more violent, and there's more and more violence in the Watchtower. And in the past, too, there was so much violence that went on that we didn't even hear, and so forth. And I just hope that justice is done, and I just hope that for a speedy recovery of the victims and so forth. And I will definitely keep you in my prayers, and may God be with you. It's sickening what I've heard. So I'll let the next caller come in there, I think, and so forth. And my heart definitely goes out to you, and thank you for coming on. I know it wasn't an easy thing to do, but I hope that this information will help somebody, and I just hope that we'll bring the Watchtower to an end a lot quicker.
Yeah, me too. It's just a matter of time. It's just frustrating that we have to we already wasted our lives in Watchtower, and to have to waste any time than having to try and expose it. It's like I wish that our lives weren't continuously affected even after we leave,
Yeah, well, the Watchtower Society is nothing but an industry of death. I've said that time and again when I've come on the program before. It's nothing but an industry of death. It's nothing but a socialist type dictatorship, so forth. Some of their policies that they have there is, same type of policies that the socialist government or Marxist governments have, and so forth. And they really have to be put in their place, because they're violating our civil rights and human rights. And I mean, they're the most destructive organization on the face of the earth.
Yeah, they are.
Well, thank you.
And they control our lives.
Yeah. Hey, smart girl.
Go ahead, speak up. Go ahead.
Let the sister go first. Go ahead.
Okay, it's just Susan. Vanessa, I wanted to know about your nephew, Ty. I hope that Jehovah's Witnesses don't have their claws in him. And what's going to happen to this boy?
Oh, that's a fight. I just spoke to CPS just on Friday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday morning. And one of the Jehovah's Witness family members is wanting to get custody of him. And well, 2 of them, but one is more prominent and is more than likely going to get him. And at first, when I first contacted them right after everything happened, I wanted to tell them what I knew, and they deliberately lied and said to me, because they knew I was no longer a Jehovah's Witness anymore, because then how they found me is they saw my video on YouTube. And so then it's like, oh, that's the girl that's been warning everybody, or she's got this YouTube channel. She's an apostate. Oh my goodness. So she lied to me and she goes, I just want you to know I don't believe in disfellowshipping and shunning and, and we're going to let you be a part of Ty's life, blah, blah, blah. But please don't say this and this and this. And please don't talk about that. And they were trying to control me. Well, and then she says to me, don't worry, Ty's not going to be raised a Jehovah's Witness. Well, then I got on her Facebook and saw that she starts posting that, oh, we're going to raise him to love Jehovah and, blah, she lied. And thankfully I recorded that phone conversation of her renouncing her own faith and lying to an apostate. And yeah, it's scary. I don't trust them with him, but it's like, I don't know what I can do.
Well, I know if there's something to be done, you'll do it, Vanessa. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I'll try everything in my power. But I will, when I spoke, this is an interesting thing, when I spoke to the CPS person on Friday, I started to tell her of why I was worried about him being raised as a Jehovah's Witness. And I was telling her even about their certain beliefs and doctrines. Like, do you realize that if you let him be with them, he's even going to be refused certain medical treatments? Like, do you know that, like, if he has an accident or whatever, and that they revel in children losing their lives by refusing blood transfusions? And so even that was a danger. She goes, can you send me those articles? Like, seriously, I need you to send. So that is something major. So, I didn't realize like how deeply they would take that as like a threat towards a child's safety. Like, once a child is in protective custody and when something has already happened, it's like they see all forms of abuse, and so, that could be life-changing to a lot of people, to get help for some of these kids that, because I remember being terrified of getting in an accident and bleeding to death.
Wow. Well, I hope that he gets help from you, and I hope you get some help for yourself, for what's happened to you. You must be a strong person to be standing tall right now. I don't know how you do it, but you're doing it. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thanks. It's like I feel just a sense of relief finally. I can breathe. Go ahead.
We got Michigan coming in. Michigan, come on in.
Yeah, this is Smurf Girl. This is Daniel. Years ago we talked on the phone and had many conversations about many different things. And the thing that people might doubt, like the Watchtower would have anything to do with this, or they would cover something up. But the one thing that I would want to share with people from knowing you is pay attention to the detail, how you describe everything. It's hard to make this stuff up. You go into great detail into things that you've experienced and with your family and with the Watchtower. And what's the word to use? I'm saddened that you have gone through this, but at the same time, to share your story, it is, in a sense, you're taking a tragedy and turning it into a beautiful story of survival, and also exposing how far the Watchtower will go to cover things up, and especially if like they were Bethelites and stuff like that, is how far they will go to bury it or try to bury it. But you are a true warrior. You really are, in a sense of you survived this. And And this is only really the story you're telling tonight, or your testimony tonight, is not even really half of what you've gone through in your life as being a Jehovah's Witness. And I admire you, and I encourage you to continue to share your story, because people need to realize what an evil cult that we were raised in. And you're doing it with your head up, and you're exposing the Watchtower, and really, if anybody's listening that might be doubting, like, oh, you know, that the Watchtower wouldn't cover this up or do that, pay attention to detail. And that's what I was listening tonight very intently, is it's hard to make this stuff up. You know what I'm saying? You cover your bases, and I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you. Keep your head up, and thank you for sharing with us tonight.
No problem. Yeah, to anybody who's a survivor of abuse, like, the one thing that is important that, like, the police will pay attention to, because they want to know every single detail, because there might be one little detail that links to evidence they might have. Like, there's been times where I'm talking to, like, there's a special police task force that took over for the local police, and I'm mentioning certain things to them, and they're like, whoa, hold up, what did you just say? And it may seem like it was like a small detail to me, and they're like, no, that, you know, they know something more than I do. So it's like, never leave any detail out, even if you think it might be, you know, like, even mentioning, like, what kind of a car it was, or, you know, small things, or like what they might be wearing, or I don't even know, just everything.
Can I ask you a question on a more of a personal note? When you look at your life as being raised as a Jehovah's Witness and everything that you've experienced in your life, what keeps you going? What keeps you focused and not go crazy with what you've seen and whatnot?
Getting even. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I've been hurt so many times, you know, by various family members, or, you know, various Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's like, I just want justice. And that passion, or that anger, sometimes, like, when I get depressed, that anger gets me going. And I don't know if that's healthy or not. I don't care at this point. But, you know.
No, justice needs to be served. And I think that's what you're doing really today, is you're exposing the Watchtower, you're exposing what your experience has been. And in that sense, if you could kind of look at it as you're taking your power back, because you're not keeping it inside you, you're getting it out of you. You see what I'm saying? And you're sharing that with others, so that others might have experienced something similar, whether it's abuse. I got an echo, but anyway, I think you're doing an amazing job, and I think you're a lot stronger than you realize, and you just keep up doing what you're doing, and getting this out of you allows you to be able to heal in the process, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, area code 308. Go ahead, 308. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Hello. Is it okay if I ask you a question, Vanessa? Hi, and thank you for sharing your story. I have been keeping up with you through the years, and I know that it's very traumatizing, all of the things you've been through. You just talked about justice. That my question is there any legal way for you to go up against Watchtower and you know, is there any legal ramifications where you might be able to get some compensation for your suffering, but for your families too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm like, I've got to wait until the trial happens so that everything comes out with that, and then other things like before I file a lawsuit, so that I have all the information, of having like the gravity of it and like all the details of all the evidence. And then they better hold their horses, because
after okay. So after the criminal trial, do you have an attorney lined up to help you with your case? With the case?
There's a couple that I'm considering. Yeah. I just haven't decided like which one would like be the best decision. Yeah. There's several. And I might use like a couple of different ones.
Oh, I said that's really good to hear. I think that's great. I think that there should be some legal justice here, and whatever can be done,
Yeah. Yeah, like we're thinking like a wrongful death lawsuit, and but I'm more excited of the FBI, of other things that have come out. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I plan on talking to my Uncle Brent like after all of this. Because I know that he wants to talk to me, which is insane, but that's nerve-wracking.
And he's in prison, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna visit him. I don't know if I know I'll be able to record it if I talk to him over the phone from prison. Sometimes they don't let you take in like a phone or anything when you visit them in person. But I know that I'll be like, if when I do talk to him, I'll get him to talk.
What would be your intention to talk to him? What would be the reason that you'd want to talk to him?
I want him to admit to certain things. And yeah, there's a lot of questions I have that I want to ask him.
And would you be able to use that in court? Would you be able to use his different statements in court if you go to court?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because then it'll be like public record. But when I saw him in December, like I could tell, because I sat right next to him when we had for Grandma's funeral dinner, or like funeral lunch, because it's more like lunchtime. I sat right next to him, and like I did that on purpose, because it was like I knew he was, up to no good, and I just I made my presence known. And when I took their picture, it was in the Masonic hall was in the basement, and we were in the room up above. And Clyde's the one that arranged that, and he was gloating, and I have him on tape. He goes, "So you're gonna put this on YouTube?" Like he just thought it was funny that he could, be an idiot like that. And I'm like, yeah, I am gonna put it on YouTube. But when I took their picture, they were standing, so it was my dad and Clyde and Brent and another brother and sister. So the 5 of them were standing there. I think, it was 5. And I said, turn to the side, like a mugshot. Just, turn and stand, like a mugshot. And I stood there and I took their picture. So I haven't been secretive at all that I was, actively trying to get them put behind bars. Especially after my Uncle Morris got, life in prison for what he did. And it's like, I'm just waiting for them to slip up.
What about you? What about you, Vanessa? What about you? Do you have a case against Watchtower that you'll be able to get a lawyer to fight for you and give you some compensation for all the suffering, because you tried to expose it, but Watchtower, basically you'd be a case like all these other cases where, you know, abuse cases that go up against Watchtower, like with Zalkin, Attorney Zalkin, that type of case. Do you think you will be able to get some type of retribution or compensation for your own self, for you?
Yeah. I hope so. I hope so. I'm going to try, you know, several different tactics. I spoke to Zalkin. I actually have his cell phone number, but he's in California.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I'm not sure of like what state of what jurisdiction, if it would have to be like a New York law firm to sue them in New York, or if I have to have a lawyer, you know, here or up in South Dakota. That's kind of the tricky part. And depending on the state, I might be able to sue them in multiple different states, like, you know, suing them in the various different states of where it happened. So I'll do whatever I've got to do.
Oh.
Yeah, and then various different reasons for suing them.
Yeah, at least also, if you did talk to him, he might be able to give you some guidance, if you know, as to what the best way to go about your, you know, a case is. At least, you know, even if he doesn't take your case, but I think he'd be a great one to.
Well, the last time I talked to Zalkin, he was kind of done with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, sadly. There was some, well, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, there was some ex-witnesses that kind of gave him a bad taste in his mouth. So that was disappointing.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are other lawyers that he might be able to refer you to that might be working with XJW. Yeah, well, I really hope you pursue that for your own sake, because your life has been put into extreme hardship because of this organization. Well, all of us. I'm an XJW. I was in 45 years, and I'm suffering in different ways. I mean, I fortunately didn't go through the types of abuse you went through, but it's all destructive, and it takes your soul. I mean, it rapes your identity. It takes your soul. It leaves you confused, and you have to make your way after so many years. So, but yeah, but I don't know if you know who I am, but this is Christine. No, I'm good friends with Cindy Rock. Well,
Cindy's my mom. Yeah, I call her mom. I see
know.
her. Yeah.
She's wonderful. Yeah, and when I moved to Tucson, is, you know, when I got to know her, and I just wanted to let you know who I was, and that, you know, my thoughts are with you. And I have become disabled, so I haven't been able to get out and visit. And, you know, I know there was some times where there was a group that we could have met at. But anyway, I hope someday to meet you. But anyway, I wanted to just give you my positive, you know, concern, and try to encourage you to continue to fight for yourself if you can legally. And, you know, I know it has to be difficult, and I'm sorry you went through so much, but sending you my best regards here.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Debbie. I was a long-time Jehovah's Witness also, and some of our stories are similar because, like, I went through molestation when I was little, and as a teenager getting raped, and excuse me, what? Did you say something?
No, I was just like, that's awful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
your
ahead.
situation is really bad too. But my dad was an elder, and you were talking about them making up that list like in the 80s and updating it from the 50s and everything. Well, my dad had those names too. He found that he was, I don't know if it was given to him or if he just searched until he got a hold of the list. And he was secretly exposing pedophiles to the authorities.
Oh, it's amazing.
And in 1993, he was our presiding overseer at that time, and my son had to have brain surgery, and the blood issue came up, and the liaison committee, follows you everywhere, and somehow my dad got somebody to distract them, and he grabbed me as I was walking by and pulled me into a closet at the hospital, and he told me this is an evil cult.
Oh, wow.
And I already knew that a lot of the men were evil because of what they had done to me. I also later on found out that they had done some of the same stuff to my son. And anyway, long story short, I believe everything you said about about the murders being traced back to the Watchtower and all that, because in 1993 I joined in with my dad, exposing them, and we were just, peanuts, physically and mentally out, for many years. And my dad told me that about 1998 or 99, that they found him out, and he knew too much, and they were going to kill him.
Wow.
And he told me exactly how they were going to do it. That's exactly how it happened. And there was nothing I could do because my mom was a staunch Jehovah's Witness. And she followed the elders' advice about not letting them do a toxicology report on my dad, because that's what I wanted. And she didn't believe me about him being poisoned. In fact, my own disfellowshipped brother didn't believe me. So I was kind of alone in trying to fight for my dad to have been heard. And he had tried several things to disappear. But my mom managed to track him down every time and get him back home, and she would just tell the authorities he has mental problems. And even one time he got on the way to Washington, D.C., and she got a hold of the police department there and told them to get him off the bus because he was not okay, that he didn't take his meds or anything with him. And the police said, well, we'll just have to, see for ourselves whether or not he seems to be a danger to himself or others. And that's what they did. And they called my mom back and they told her, ma'am, there's nothing wrong with your husband. He's fine. I guess my dad kind of tried to explain some of it. Of course, if he had tried to explain it, then he probably would have got taken in because they would have thought he was crazy. Yeah. Because, people just didn't think that kind of way about Jehovah's Witnesses. But anyway, he died September 17th of 2000, and he had been poisoned to death by some of the members of our congregation. And it was a kind of a slow thing, and my son and I were staying with them, and we would try to get into my dad's room when they would get to the house, and they'd go in there and they'd lock the door and wouldn't let us in. And I mean, we were right there in the same house, and it was some pioneers that did it. And anyway, so I lost my dad, but then they also found out that I was helping and doing the same thing. And so I had a target on my back. And a lot of really bad things happened to me, and still do, you know. But, you know, in between all the bad times, there's some good times too. And you have to keep in mind that it's not, that life in general is not all bad. It's not all painful. It's not all sad. It's just, you know, and each one of us has our own experience. But I moved literally across the country.
Hey Debbie, we're getting short on time here. We're gonna have to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
was just.
Yeah. I mean, I
was just letting her know I believed
story.
everything.
No, I know you got your story to tell, and some night we'll get you on here and tell your whole story. But we got to move on. We've got other programs coming up. But thank you, Debbie, for wanting to come on and share some thoughts. Okay, so Vanessa, so what do you want to say to wrap this all up here tonight?
I don't even know. Just that this is, you know, just the beginning. There's more to come, but you know, I guess, you know, with my channel, you know, doing things on YouTube and stuff, it's like the only reason why I started my YouTube channel is to stop something like this from happening in the family, and not being able to stop it. It's like really frustrating. And now it's like, what do I even do from here? Like, it seems kind of stupid or like pointless to me. So it's like, what am I now gonna go back to picking Watchtower articles apart when it's like there's, you know, dead bodies in the ground? It's like all that seems kind of pointless now. Like it all just seems pointless. Like I haven't really, I don't know. This is just a life-changing situation, you know, of wherever this will take me. I've got zero clue. I just hope something good happens from it, and yeah.
Well, let's just hope the best, and we'll be praying for you too, Vanessa. You went through an awful lot, and like I say at the very outset of the program, more than the average witness. But by sharing your story here tonight, well, what I get out of it, obviously it's sad, it's horrible, but what I get out of it is it shows me how evil the Watchtower is. They don't have any consideration for a person's life at all. They cover all of this up so nobody's going to see it. And in the process of covering this all up, people get hurt. I mean, not just hurt, but killed. That happened in your family. And I thank you, Vanessa, for coming on and telling your story. You know, check it out on YouTube. You can see all the good comments people were giving here tonight. They all love you. They really, really do.
Good.
They are now. I know they're all starting
to.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love you too.
Look like, and I've only got to see what you look like.
Oh, who's this?
Oh yeah. I know. I forgot. I hope I was. It's weird having my face on stuff. I don't know. I know it's been driving you guys crazy that you didn't know what I looked like. Hope I'm not a disappointment.
We all know why. We all know why, so you can keep doing that and people won't know you.
Okay.
Well, here you go. Well, Vanessa, you're a trooper. You're a trooper.
Thank
you really
you.
are, and I really mean that. It's, you know, a lot of people wouldn't come on and share this story, but I know this story is going to help. It'll go into the archives. People will see it on YouTube. And there is murder in the Watchtower, contrary to popular belief. A lot of witnesses, oh, no, that doesn't happen. We're the pure people. No, Watchtower people, Jehovah's Witnesses go crazy and snap too. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you very much.
You're
All right.
welcome.
We'll
Thank
keep the
you.
we'll keep the program going. We got a pasta babe coming on about 10 minutes from now. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about some of the other stories that I've heard here concerning murder. Thank you very much, Vanessa, Smurf Girl. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, that was Smurf Girl, Vanessa, and we really appreciate her coming on here tonight. But friends, this is not, let me put it this way to you. After 16 years of being here on the Six Screens Telenetwork, I honestly have to tell you, this is not the first time I've heard of murder and mayhem in the Watchtower. It's something that I've always was fascinated with because the Watchtower tries to keep everything so, pristine, clear, Christine, beautiful. We have no problems. We have no troubles. But that is absolutely crazy. The Watchtower has more problems and more schizo people than you would ever believe in your life. As a matter of fact, let me just get in here. And at the outset of tonight's program, I talked about a man that came on the program years ago. His name was James Kostelnik. And I'll tell you what, he had us all on the edge of our seat. He's a former Jehovah's Witness man, but he started having doubts about the Watchtower. And he was married to a woman who was a staunch Jehovah's Witness. And she really did not like the idea of James moving aside from the Watchtower. So she went to a convention. They got divorced because of him becoming an apostate, so to speak. So she went to a convention. The wife went to the convention with her children and met a Jehovah's Witness man there. And James Kostelnik, who told me the story, who came on here, he wrote a book called Wolves Among Sheep. And what a terrible, horrific situation went on with him. That the Jehovah's Witness man that his ex-wife married ended up killing his wife and his two children. So he told that story. So, we've heard this before, and other people have come on as well and told stories. But mayhem does exist in the Watchtower. I know, well, that's the pure Christian religion. Well, it happens in the Watchtower. Did someone want to come on and say something? Go ahead. You're on with us. You're on with us, JW World News. I see some people have got their lines open here, but we got to mute yourself when you're not talking. That way there we don't hear all this background noise. But no, we have heard stories like this. But the point that I wanted to make, and I wanted to make this clear, Jehovah's Witnesses, they kind of don't believe any of this. They don't believe that there's anybody that's a pedophile in the organization. They don't believe that there's murderers in the organization. They just believe that this is Jehovah's spiritual paradise. Nothing ever goes wrong. But they're wrong with that. A lot goes wrong in the Watchtower, and you heard it here tonight. Does area code 425 want to say something? Go ahead.
Hey, yes, this is Kim in Seattle, and I just wanted to encourage everybody to watch Jimmy Bell's show. It's on Rick's channel, and thank you so much, Rick, for doing that for Jimmy. And if you want the big picture of everything that's going on in this crazy world, Watchtower is involved in the New World Order and all sorts of other stuff, and Jimmy explains it very step by step. And I just want to say, please tune in next Saturday. What is it, Rick? I think 9 o'clock Eastern.
9 o'clock Eastern, Kim. And thank you for kind of letting the audience be aware of that, because that program is taken off like a rocket. It really is doing a good job, and we're proud of Jimmy and his friends. Well, thank you, Kim.
It's awesome. Thank you so much, Rick. Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you go. A little plug for Jimmy's program. What's the matter with that? What is the matter with that? We all love Jimmy, right? I mean, why wouldn't you? What a straight shooting guy Jimmy is. So that's very, very good. Oh, I'll tell you, friends, we have a lot of fun here at the Six Screens, but you hate to hear stories, right? You hate to hear stories about murder. Do we have someone want to speak up? Go ahead. You're on with us if you'd like to. Let me just mute a few people here. We got a pasta babe. She's going to be coming up next right here on the Six Screens. She's your favorite favorite apostate, Linda James. That's her name. So she'll be coming up here very, very shortly. We look forward to that. She burns the midnight oil. She goes all night long, sometimes till 7, 8 in the morning. And that's why I got a bed set up in my studio. I got a bed set up in here, and Linda comes on, and I'm just trying to, once in a while, I'll doze off. I can't hear everything. But if you can't sleep tonight and you don't know what to do, well, listen in to Healing After the Watchtower with a Pasta Babe. All right, so let's just try to zero in here on a couple of things. So you guys, I mean, we're talking about murder in the Watchtower. And the witnesses, they don't believe any of this stuff exists, as they say. They don't believe any mayhem. Everything in the spiritual paradise is wonderful. There's no problems here. People don't suffer from anything. We're protected by Jehovah. Well, not so fast with that. Not so fast with that. I mean, one of the worst cases of mayhem and murder in the Watchtower I ever read about was up in Michigan. A 45-year-old woman, Lauren Stewart. Well, she had it all. She was a very attractive woman. She was a model. She had a very successful husband. She had 2 college-educated kids, and she had a charming home in Keego Harbor. A beautiful house. She had everything going for her. Everything. But what happened is Lauren, well, she got shunned. She got disfellowshipped, and she was shunned by the Watchtower. And all of her friends and others would not talk with her any longer. And it drove Lauren Stewart to do the unthinkable. Stewart shot and killed her husband and 2 adult children and then killed herself. How's that one? What do you think about that? She was a Jehovah's Witness woman. She was just fellowshipped, but nonetheless attached to the Watchtower. So these stories are real. You heard a story tonight from South Dakota. You heard a story tonight of a man and a woman who was pregnant, 8 months pregnant, killed. So really 3 killed, really, when you stop and think about it. That's how the court's going to look about it. So then we had Kilstilnick. We talked about him too. 3 of his family members killed by a Jehovah's Witness man. So don't you guys ever think that this doesn't happen in the Jehovah's Witness religion? And I'm just touching on the surface here, friends. There's a lot of mayhem, and there's a lot more that goes on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, I don't know if Apostle Babe can hear me. We're going to be getting her on here, right? I don't know if she's on our telephone network here. I don't know if she's on, but we're going to be getting her on here very shortly. But in the meantime, what we can probably do is we can kind of talk a little bit. We can kind of open the lines up if anybody wants to talk about anything. And we'll see if Apostle Babe can come on and be with us here very, very shortly. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, let's just talk. Why can't we just open up the lines and we can talk? We have a lot of people listening into the Six Screens tonight. A lot of people on our telephone line. So what's on your mind tonight? What would you like to talk about? Is there anything that's concerning you? Is there anything you heard here tonight that got you thinking? I'd love to know what you're thinking out there. I know we got a lot of people listening in. So go ahead, say hello.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
I was, thinking about a lot of what was said tonight by Vanessa. And I've heard this statement before, and I think it's true. It says a person is only as sick as the secrets they carry. When we carry secrets, we don't seem to do well. Well, the Watchtower carries all kinds of secrets. One secret being that list of all the pedophiles that they hold. So that's a sick organization. They do nothing but hide the dirt so they look pristine on the outside, and they're saying, oh, we can't make Jehovah look bad. But whenever they use the word Jehovah, they mean the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York. So that's all they care about is the appearance. They're rotten graves inside, but they appear whitewashed on the outside.
Well, you're absolutely right, Susan, and that's exactly what takes place. The world does not know how evil they are, but ex-witnesses do. People that belong to that organization, they do. Well, thank you very much, Susan, for chiming in with us. Boy, I'll tell you what, friends, it's Saturday night. It's a rocking night here at the Six Screens, and we got a number of programs. We still have one more coming up tonight with Linda James, your favorite apostate. I'm not sure where she is. She's supposed to be coming on around 11, but I don't know where she took off to be. But she should be on here with us very, very shortly. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody that's been coming in here tonight and commenting. And now we have like open lines. What do you guys think? I mean, since you left the Watchtower, think things have changed? Maybe you just got out recently. But in the meantime, in the last couple of years, things have changed an awful lot. Things have changed an awful lot. So I see some people coming in on our lines. Go ahead, speak up. You're on with us.
Yeah, Mr. Fearon.
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know here quickly that what we're hearing now of these crimes that happen within the Watchtower is just what we hear of. It's just a fraction of them. I've mentioned that before, and I know you have too, but yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff regarding disfellowship cases and regarding the crimes in the Watchtower. There's a whole lot of stuff we just do not hear. Like, for example, several years ago, I think there was a case in Livingston County someplace here in Michigan of a Jehovah's Witness guy. He murdered his wife and so forth. And it was in the paper and all that, and they did mention that they were witnesses. It was I think it was the Frank Luna case and so forth. So there's a whole lot of stuff we just haven't heard, and I will keep on going on the internet every chance I get, and I'll see what I can find and so forth. And it's just, there's another case too here that where a guy had moved to Oregon. He was a witness, and somehow or other he got put out, but he killed 3 of his kids. But that happened in the state of Oregon. Yeah, so it's really the crime and violence is a lot worse than people think in the Watchtower.
It's a lot worse, is right, Ken. Everyone thinks it's a pristine organization. There's no problems, no trouble. But Ken, you've been listening in for a number of years, and I think you have to confer, at least understand that you've heard a lot of situations on here that are very unpleasant.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, well, I want to say good night to everybody right now. I think I'll be going here, so God bless and be with you all. And once again, my heart goes out to Vanessa. I'll definitely keep you, all the victims, in our prayers, and we hope that someday we can put an end to this victimization of not only the Watchtower people, but all the people. God bless and be with you, and we'll see you next week.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. Well, my goodness gracious, that's Ken out of Michigan, and it's just totally amazing to me that we have so many people. You know, we're just a niche little network. We're not CBS News here, but we're just a niche little network, and we try to do the best we can and try to get people to call in and talk to us, and that's our biggest issue.
Better than CNN.
I'm sorry?
You do better than CNN.
We do better than CNN. I guess we do. I think we probably do. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That makes me feel.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Rick, am I still muted?
No, you're not muted. You're on. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Kim in Seattle again. Yes, I read that book about that horrible person that the gentleman was just talking about. He cut up his children and his wife, and he put them in suitcases. And see, being in Washington State, we heard about that. And I guess there is a movie called True Story, although I haven't been able to find it anywhere. It's just horrifying. I mean, when these Jehovah's Witnesses really go crazy, they go crazy. And it's pretty horrifying. There's some of the stuff that they do. Anyway, I just wanted to say that because I was near that crime. I mean, I'm not involved in it or didn't, I'm not like a detective or anything, but I was horrified when I heard about that. All right. Thanks, Rick.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly right. You would be horrified, Kim. So many stories we've heard, and it is horrifying. Thank you for chiming in with us. Well, I'm glad that man that was just on early. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Rick. This is Jonathan in Ontario. How are you doing?
Jonathan, I'm cranking away at it. Yes, Jonathan.
I just wanted to, excuse me. I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you do. I've been active speaking out against the Jehovah's Witnesses for about a year and a half now. I go by Ex-Witness Awake on YouTube and TikTok and that. And anybody that does this kind of work where they speak up and they tell their story and they make people aware and warn people, I'm proud of every one of you.
Well, thank you.
That's all I basically had to contribute there.
Well, that's all right. Now, is this the first time you're calling in?
It is. I'm kind of a recent listener. I've caught a couple of your shows, but it's nice to hear from real people.
No, isn't it nice? Isn't it really nice to be able to listen to people in real time talking about what's going on behind the curtains? Well, thank you for chiming in with us. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Oh, yes. Always good to hear from new ones. Always good. That always makes me happy. Well, my goodness gracious. Well, I'll tell you what a night we had here tonight. It's not a pleasant thing talking about murder, but it's something that does happen in the Watchtower. And the reason why I even wanted Vanessa, well, she called me. She wanted to come on. She wanted to tell her story. And even Kostelnik, the man that I was talking about earlier, Wolves Among Sheep, that's the name of the book. Boy, he also went through very, very difficult times as well. But he tells his story, too, about mayhem and murder in the Watchtower. Yeah, it's not Jehovah's spiritual paradise. Come on, let's get real with that. It's not. I mean, did you see it when you were in there?
Rick?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Hi, this is Sharon in North Carolina.
Hello, Sharon.
How you doing tonight?
I'm cranking away at it, yes.
I certainly see that. I just wanted to say to Vanessa that my prayers are with her to keep her strong during this time with her nephew, Ty. And also, with all this talk, I was speaking of my old congregation. We had this one elder that everybody loved. And then he went away on vacation. And this is what the talk was in the hall. And it wasn't until it appeared in the Newsday that he was part of the Genovese family. And he was put in prison for murder. Him and his son, both of them. And then what you said previous to this show about the witnesses turning on the organization, I found that kind of a little humorous, because didn't they preach that about the United Nations turning on the great harlot? And now it seems they're the great harlot that the witnesses are turning on.
Well, you got it. Now that's an interesting thought, but that's what seems to be happening.
Yeah, it's just they're turning and they don't want to be bothered anymore. And let's just hope that this period during the crown virus, that made a lot of them wake up and look further. And on a personal note, I've been sending my Aunt Charlotte stuff. She's in Louisiana. And I sent her JW fax the other day, well, Monday. She read the entire website and called me yesterday. And she said, how could your father, she always referred to him as my brother because my father is a PO and it's her younger brother. And she always would say, my brother, my brother. But this time she said, how could your father have stayed with this evil organization so long? She's never a JW. And I said, Aunt Charlotte, it's because it's repetition and fear mongering. And then she said, you know, I guess what Hitler said was right. You repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it.
Boy, you got that one right. That's a good thought, and that's exactly what goes on. Sharon, always good to hear from you. I love your New York accent. I really, really do.
Oh, thank you, Rick.
Yeah, I do. I really do. That's a good accent. I really like that. I identify with that. I'm from Boston, but we're very similar, you know.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. So,
okay, good night, Rick.
well,
I'll say good night so somebody else can
well,
talk.
Well, thank you for coming on,
Okay.
Sharon. That's good. All righty.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good. Thank you. Well, we have got a pasta babe coming up here next, but in the meantime, you could come up next. Now's your chance.
This session is no longer being recorded.
All right, friends. Well, you just heard that. This session is no longer being recorded. So what we're going to do is we're going to shut it down. That's my recorder. And we're going to start it all over again. So just bear with us. Don't go anywhere. And we'll get it set. The telephone line as well. So just, we'll get it recorded again.
Welcome into the live 6 Screens conference calls. We thank you for joining in. To speak up and talk, press *6 on your telephone. When you are done talking, press *6 to mute yourself. Remember, when you are unmuted, your phone is a microphone.
We just got to go through this, folks. It's our telephone line goes off every 6 hours, so stay with us.
Enjoy the programs tonight. You will now be placed into the conference.
Muted.
Hello? Okay. Well, I'm not sure what happened there, but we'll try to get that telephone line back on with us. So let's just do that once again. I'm going to end YouTube right now, folks. We're going to start a Pasta Babes program very shortly. So just stay with us, and we'll get the telephone line back on. It goes off every 6 hours. So the telephone line will be coming right back on shortly. So just stay with us. We're going to end this YouTube broadcast, and stay with us. Come back in about 2 minutes. And we'll be about 5 minutes. We'll be back on with a Pasta Babe. But thank you, everyone, for coming in tonight and listening to the 6 Screens and calling in as well. We appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in a few minutes on a Pasta Babes program. Ending this right now.